Skill 36, point slope form. The goal of today's lesson is to write linear functions using point slope form. One thing we're going to have to recall when we're doing this is slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and we're going to do a new format of a similar type of linear function. So our key concept for today is point slope form. In this one, we have a point and a slope, and that is where we get the format, just as it says, point slope. Okay, so we have our slope, and that's still going to be the m, and then this x1, y1, that is the point that we're going to be given. So we're going to be given an m and an x1, y1 point. And that is our formula. Our formula is y minus y1 equals m times the whole quantity x minus x1. Now, where does this formula come from? It actually comes from our slope formula. Okay, so if we have m equals y minus y1, x minus x1, x and y is just a point, x1, y1 is just a point. So this is where the formula can come from. So if you look at what happened here, what we actually did is we multiplied x minus x1 to both sides of the equation, and we have y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. So that's really, it just came from our slope equation. We can get everything from that slope equation. And then if we want to take this a step further, we can distribute our m in like that, and then add our y1. And then we have y equals mx minus whatever m times x1 is plus y1. So this stuff right here, that is just your b. So we can also get slope-intercept form from this slope equation. So really everything comes from the slope equation. But as long as we remember the equation of where to put things in, y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, then we just have to plug point numbers in. So if we find our m, there we go, we're going to put our m in for our m, and then we find our point. We have our x1 right there, so that's going in for the x1 right there, and then we have our y1 right there, so that's going to go in for our y1 right there. So we just plug our points in where they need to go. Y minus y1 is 6 equals the m, that's negative 5, x minus negative 3. So point slope form would be y minus 6 equals negative 5 x plus 3. Now, if I asked you to go a step further and say what slope-intercept form is, well, then we just have to solve for y. So if we're trying to find slope-intercept form, then we just have to solve for y, so that's distribute here and add the 6. So y equals negative 5x minus 15 plus 6. And then we'd add the negative 15 plus 6, and our final slope-intercept form is y equals negative 5x minus 9. So that's slope-intercept form, and point slope form was the y minus 6 equals negative 5x plus 3. Okay. So just make sure that you can write it in both ways, because you will be asked to write it in both ways. So let's do another one where we're going to be writing in point slope form first. So y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. We'll write it in point slope form, and then we will write it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so first we find our m right there, so those will go in together. Then our x1 is the 4, so that will go there, and our y1 is the -2, so that will go right there. All right, so putting in what we know, y minus -2 equals my m, which was 1/3 x minus 4. And then simplifying that, point slope is y plus 2 equals 1/3 x minus 4. And that's in parentheses. So that is your point slope form right there. And then if we go a step further and we find slope-intercept form, we need to add the 2 and distribute the 1/3. So that'll give me y equals 1/3 x minus 4/3, and then I add the 2. Okay, so now I have to simplify that for slope-intercept form. Y equals 1/3 x minus 4/3, and then I need to figure out a common denominator, which would be 3. So that gives me 6/3. So I'm actually adding -4/3 plus 6/3 to give me y equals 1/3 x plus 2/3. So that is your slope-intercept form. Next, we're going to use 2 points to find an equation in point-slope form. So again, we need to start by finding our m, and then we just pick a point. Okay, so m equals y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And then we put our points in. So my y1 will go 4 minus -3 over 1 minus -2. Double negative becomes positive. That's a 7. Double negative becomes positive. That's a 3. So the m is 7/3. And then I can find my point slope form. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So point slope form would be y minus 4, if we use this first point, equals 7/3 x minus 1. So that right there is point slope form. And then if we wanted to do slope-intercept form, we distribute and then add the 4. Okay, so y equals 7/3 x minus 7/3. That's the distribution, and then we have to add the 4. Okay, but then we're going to have to get that common denominator again. So the common denominator would be 3. So I'm going to multiply that by 3 over 3, giving me y equals 7/3 x minus 7/3 plus 12 over 3. Now I can add because I have a common denominator there. And my final slope-intercept form, 7/3 x, -7 plus 12 is a positive 5/3. So that would be slope-intercept form. And then my point slope form is up here. And you need to be able to do both. For these next couple, we're going to graph from point-slope form. So what we want to do on these is identify the point and identify the slope. Well, the slope is easy because the slope is just going to be the part that's before the x term. So that's the 2 right there. So my m is 2, or 2 over 1, so that we know where to count. We're going to count up 2 and right 1. Okay, but the harder part is maybe finding the point. I know my point has to do with the 3 and the 4, but we've got to be careful about that. We have to flip the sign. So my x1, comma y1 point is going to actually be negative 3. We've got to flip the sign, and negative 4. So this is my starting point. Negative 3, negative 4, so that's right here. And then I can count from there. So I'm going to count up 2 over 1. And I'm going by 2s. Every block is 1, so up 1, 2, and then over 1. So those points right there are both on my graph, and then I can draw out my line. So that would be what my graph would look like then. Next one, again, we got point-slope form. So right there, that would be my m, because it's the thing before the x. M equals 2 over 3, so that would be up 2 and to the right 3, once I figure out my starting point. Okay, so to find my starting point, I'm going to identify my x and my y, and that's going to be my x1, y1 point. x1, y1 is going to be, okay, so I'm going to switch the sign. So since this says negative 2, switching the sign would make it a positive 2. Since this says negative 1, switching the sign would make it a positive 1. So there we go, 2, 1. So I'm going to go over to 2, up to 1, and I'm going to start there. And from there, I'm going to count. I'm going to count up 2 over 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then I put my point, and then I can draw my line through those points there. It'd be something like that, and that would be your final answer. Okay, and these last two, we need to be able to graph them in both ways. So this first one is in slope-intercept form, so I need to find the intercept at 5 and find my slope, negative 3, and then go from there. So my intercept is 5, positive 5, so that's right there. And then I'm going to count from there, and I'm going to count down 3. That's my m. So down 3 and over 1. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. And then I can draw my line through those points. For this next one, we are in point-slope form. So again, I find my slope, and this time my slope is 2. So it's going to go up 2 and over 1. And then I identify my point, which is the 3 and the 4 there. So I need to identify what is the x1 and what is the y1. Okay, so the x1, flip the sign of negative, so it's a positive 3. Flip the sign of positive, it'll be a negative 4. And then I start there. 3, negative 4 is like right here. And then I'm going to count up 2 over 1. 1, 2, 1. So right there, and then I draw my line. And that would be the line of the second one. that wraps up your notes for point slope form. You will have to be able to do point slope form and slope intercept form. For your homework, do problems 1 through 10.